Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what I like to call the alien kingdom. For the longest time, humanity completely misunderstood fungi. We either lumped them in with plants or just ignored them altogether. But the truth? Fungi make up this massive, hidden world that operates entirely differently from plants and animals. We are literally talking about the microscopic and macroscopic web that keeps our planet alive. So, get ready to completely rethink everything you thought you knew about that mushroom on your pizza or, well, the mold on your bread.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the hidden kingdom, look at how fungi are built differently, check out the fungal family tree, explore how they do this crazy thing called eating inside out, and finally wrap up with how they're the true masters of the ecosystem.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the hidden kingdom, and shatter this whole plant myth once and for all.
I want you to really ask yourself, when you see a mushroom popping up in the grass, what exactly are you looking at? Is it a plant, an animal, or something else entirely? For centuries, basic classroom biology just kind of glossed over this whole group. We basically assumed they were just lazy plants that forgot how to be green. But as it turns out, their biology is so utterly unique that it demands a kingdom entirely of its own.
The differences between plants and fungi are actually incredibly stark. Just look at the cell walls. Plants use a material called cellulose to stand up straight, right? But fungi? They use chitin and glucans. And get this, chitin is the exact same ultra-tough material found in the exoskeletons of insects. And while plants are photosynthetic, meaning they make their own food using sunlight, fungi are what we call absorptive heterotrophs. They completely lack chlorophyll. They literally have to find organic matter out in their environment to eat and survive, much like we animals do.
And when we talk about this kingdom, we are talking about a scale that is frankly hard to wrap your head around. 3.8 million. That is the estimated number of fungal species on Earth right now. But here's the wild part. Scientists have only formally identified and described about 150,000 of them. That means the vast majority of this kingdom is a total mystery to us, just waiting in the soil, the deep oceans, and the forests to be discovered.
Moving right along to Section 2, Built Differently. Let's look at fungal architecture.
When you zoom in on the cellular building blocks of fungi, things get fascinating really fast. Instead of using cholesterol like animals do, fungi stabilize their cell membranes with a totally different molecule called ergosterol. Yet, when it comes to storing energy, they actually do it just like us animals, by packing away glycogen and lipids. But their true architectural marvel is how they actually grow. Multicellular fungi don't build solid block-like tissues. Instead, they grow as these microscopic thread-like filaments called hyphae. And when those hyphae network together into a massive interconnected web, that whole structure is called a mycelium. Now, you might think a microscopic thread sounds fragile, but these hyphae are incredibly powerful. As a hypha grows, it can generate an astonishing 1,200 psi of turgor pressure right at its tip. It pulls this off by accumulating osmolytes, like glycerol, inside its cells. To put that into perspective, 1,200 psi is enough mechanical pressure to effortlessly puncture right through tough plant tissues or even insect eggs. They literally force their way through the world.
And hey, if sheer brute force wasn't enough, some fungi are literal shapeshifters. We call them dimorphic fungi. Depending on environmental triggers, especially temperature shifts, these fungi can totally switch forms. Take the fungus Histoplasma capsulatum. Out in the soil at a cool 25 degrees Celsius, it happily grows as a filamentous mold. But if those spores get inhaled into a human host, where the temperature is a warm 37 degrees, it instantly shifts its entire biology to become a unicellular yeast, so it can survive and spread. Talk about an alien adaptation.
Which brings us to Section 3, the fungal family tree. Let's navigate these lineages.
When we look at the diverse forms of true fungi, scientifically known as Eumycota, we generally organize them into 4 major structural lineages. First, we've got Chytridiomycota, or chytrids. These are the most primitive, mostly aquatic fungi, and they actually produce swimming spores with little tails. Then there's Zygomycota, the conjugated fungi. This is where your typical black bread mold lives. Next up is Basidiomycota, the club fungi, which includes all those classic mushrooms and puffballs you spot out in the woods. And finally, Ascomycota, the sac fungi. This is the largest phylum of the bunch, containing everything from fancy truffles to the molds that produce penicillin. Now I gotta share a quick piece of scientific trivia that perfectly shows just how confusing fungi used to be. Believe it or not,
Up until recently, scientists would give one name to a fungus when they found it reproducing sexually and a completely different, totally unrelated name to the exact same fungus if they found it in its asexual stage. Obviously, it was an absolute taxonomic nightmare. Finally, in 2013, mycologists officially adopted the one fungus equals one name rule. It's simple, it's logical, and it makes studying these things a whole lot easier for the rest of us.
Okay, on to Section 4. Eating inside out. This is where the physiology gets truly bizarre.
So because fungi don't have mouths or stomachs, they actually have to perform digestion before ingestion. It's this wild three-step process. First, their hyphae secrete these incredibly powerful hydrolytic enzymes, called exoenzymes, directly out into their environment. Second, these enzymes act kind of like external stomach acid. They sit out there and break down massive, tough organic polymers like wood and proteins into tiny, simple monomers. Finally, step 3, the fungal mycelium absorbs those nutrient-rich monomers back into its body, just like a sponge. They essentially vomit their digestive juices onto their food, wait for it to dissolve, and then drink it right up.
To pull off this rapid growth and feeding frenzy, fungi rely on an incredible microscopic structure called the Spitzenkorper. Say that 5 times fast. This specialized intracellular organelle sits right at the very tip of a growing hyphae. You can think of the Spitzenkorper as an apical traffic cop. It coordinates this massive, bustling highway of secretory vesicles, perfectly directing all the materials needed to expand the cell wall in one single, rapid direction. It is the literal engine driving fungal growth.
But what happens when a fungus suddenly runs out of food? Well, that's when secondary metabolism kicks in. Triggered by starvation, particularly a lack of nitrogen or phosphorus, the fungus activates specialized groupings in its DNA called biosynthetic gene clusters, or BGCs. Think of these clusters as wartime factories. The fungus stops focusing on basic growth and completely pivots to pumping out defensive chemical weapons and survival tools. We're talking melanin for environmental protection, mycotoxins to poison competitors, and famously, antibiotics like penicillin to kill off rival bacteria.
And that leads us to our final section. Section 5, Masters of the Ecosystem. Let's talk decay and symbiosis.
If fungi suddenly vanished from the Earth tomorrow, the entire global carbon cycle would literally grind to a dead stop. To understand why, we have to look at the primary recyclers of the forest, wood decay fungi. We classify them by exactly how they eat wood. First, we have white rot fungi. These guys are incredibly unique because they are among the only organisms on Earth capable of degrading both cellulose and lignin, lignin being that ultra-tough polymer that actually makes wood hard. Then we have brown rot fungi, which eat the cellulose but leave all the brown lignin behind. And finally, soft rot fungi, which create these distinct little cavities right inside the cell walls of the wood.
So when we see this physical decay out in the world, it leaves some pretty distinct clues. See that crumbly, cubed, dark brown residue? That is the classic hallmark of brown rot, where all the cellulose is gone and only the tough lignin has been left behind. Now contrast that with the bleached, stringy appearance of the wood next to it. That's white rot in action. The fungus has successfully digested the dark lignin entirely. This isn't just gross rot. This is the absolutely essential recycling of Earth's organic matter. But remember, fungi don't just destroy things. They build them up too. Enter the phylum Glomeromycota. These fungi act as the vital, silent partners of the botanical world. They form a symbiotic relationship called arbuscular mycorrhizae by literally integrating their hyphae directly into the roots of plants. Get this, a staggering 72% of all vascular plants on Earth rely entirely on these specific root fungi to absorb essential water and nutrients from the soil. Without this fungal partnership, the vast majority of the plants, crops, and forests we see every day simply could not survive.
And honestly, their incredible power to break things down is fast becoming one of humanity's greatest tools. As the source material highlights, many fungi can break down petroleum products, pesticides, and other soil contaminants through a process known as mycoremediation. Because their exoenzymes are just so unbelievably robust, we are actually harnessing fungi right now to clean up oil spills, digest toxic waste, and literally heal human-made chemical disasters in our soils. It's a real game changer.
Which leaves us with this final thought. The next time you step outside, I want you to really look at the dirt, the fallen branches, and those towering trees and ask yourself, what massive, hidden networks are working right beneath your feet? This alien kingdom of fungi, with its pressurized hyphae, its flesh-melting enzymes, and its planet-spanning symbiotic webs, is the invisible engine keeping our world alive. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.